Another example where AI is used, at least partly, with the purpose of minimizing bias is for determining the probability that a criminal offender will continue on the criminal path after they're released. This example is, of course, in many ways different from the previous example about recruitment, but it also has some things in common. It is a time-consuming and difficult work. It is also an area where it is very important to avoid bias. The result from this process can influence the length of prison sentences, bond amounts, chances for parole, and to what extent society wants to allocate resources to keep an extra eye on someone after they have been released from prison. This example is also, as it turns out, similar to the previous example in that the AI has tended to confirm existing biases. The AI, when used in this way, has more often concluded about people of color that they have a higher probability of returning to crime compared to other groups. So, does this actually confirm our prejudice? And as it showed that it is right to keep people of color in prison for longer time and to have the police keep an extra eye on color ex-prisoners, but obviously not. There are in fact some important problems to consider here. The first problem is that the fate of an individual is decided by data gathered on a population level. This is in itself a highly questionable from a justice perspective. Another problem is that the data used by the AI to reach its conclusion was produced by a highly biased society. One important reason why so many colored former prisoners were convicted in U.S. turned out to be that people of color simply tend to get arrested more often than white people, and when arrested, their conviction rates tend to be higher than for white people. The data therefore does not necessarily show that people of color returned to crime often, only that they were arrested and convicted for it more often. Even if there were differences, however, that may not necessarily be reason for different treatment. Decisions about things like the length or prison sentences or bond amounts should of course not be based purely on correlation without any attempt to investigate what is behind the correlation, or analyze the data in a wider context. As everyone who has ever worked with statistics knows, or they should know, correlation is not the same as causation. One thing that is taught to play a large part in the explanation for this correlation is that it is more difficult for people of color to find a job after being released from prison. This means that longer prison sentences and more frequent checkups by the police would probably not help with this underlying problem. It might in fact just worsen the problem. So, here we have another case where existing prejudice are transferred to the AI system, though in slightly different and more complex way than in the previous example. Music.